Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today is the first of a three-part series on how to break up with a widower. There seems to be a great need for this topic as I see it. I deal with it in my coaching sessions all the time and in my Dating a Widower Facebook group. People aren't sure why they should break up with a widower or how they should do it. So we're going to cover all that in the next three videos. Today we're going to focus on the reasons to break up with the widower. The next one we'll discuss the best way to break up with the widower, maybe some tips and tricks on how to really get the message across to him. And then the third video we'll talk about how to navigate the post-breakup world and whether or not you should give the widower a second chance. But today, the reasons you should break up with a widower. Now, you should always, now this goes beyond widower issues, but you should always break up, not just with a widower, but for anyone, for if there's reasons, if there is abuse, addiction, or adultery, or cheating, whatever you want to call it, in the relationship. Those are always reasons to end it. There shouldn't be any hesitation about that. You need to get yourself out of these abusive or addictive or cheating situations. And by the way, usually the abuse, the addiction, the cheating, that has nothing at all to do with being a widower. It just more or less has, there are probably bigger issues than him losing his wife. But if you're in a relationship where there is any kind of abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, any kind of abuse, if you're dating a widower that has any kind of addiction issues, drugs, pornography, whatever it is, or if there's issues with cheating, with him cheating on someone or seeing people behind your back, get yourself out of those relationships. I'm not, if you were to talk to me like in a coaching session, I wouldn't tell you to stay for any reason. I would tell you to go. So you have my permission. You have the permission of experts out there. If there's abuse, adultery, addiction in your relationship, always reasons to end it. You don't need to give him a second chance here. There's no, well, I'll wait for him to, get help. Fine. He can get help. If he can overcome, his issues, then maybe you can think about giving him a second chance. But there's no reason you should stay in these situations. So don't. So, but as for widower-related reasons, there's several reasons I think why you should end things with a widower. And so the first one is that the widower can't make you number one in a reasonable amount of time. Now, some of you are thinking, well, what's a reasonable amount of time? And in my book, basically from the time you guys start dating, a widower has 1 year or less to be able to make changes in his life to make you feel like number one. And honestly, most widowers should be able to do it in a lot less than a year, but for the purposes of this, you give him a year or less. So basically, if you're not feeling like number one, ask yourself if he's treating you the same way you'd want a single or divorced man to treat you. And, and is he making progress, and is he making the changes in his life to feel number one? So, for example, if you don't feel like you're number one because he's constantly talking about the late wife, well, this is where you go in and you set healthy boundaries and you just tell him, there's appropriate times to talk about the late wife and there's inappropriate times, and you want to see him make progress. This isn't necessarily a smooth transition. I don't want you to, to misunderstand and think that, that this transition to making you number one in your life or in his life is something that just happens overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a smooth transition. It seems like there's steps back, but you should see progress and you should see steps forward, and you should see through his actions that he's making you number one. For example, when I was dating Juliana, again, it wasn't smooth, but we went from our first date to seriously discussing marriage in 4 months. And again, it wasn't the smoothest 4 months, or again, there were setbacks and issues, but Julie wasn't going to wait around forever for me to get my act together. I think a 1 year deadline with her was probably generous, but she did see I was making progress and doing things that I needed to do. So if the widower can't make you number one, if you've been dating a widower more than a year, you still don't feel like you're number one in his heart, well, there's probably a good reason for that, and odds are if the widower can't make that change within 12 months of you guys dating, he's not going to be able to do it in month 13 or month 14 or year 2 or year 5. So you have my permission to end a relationship with a widower if he cannot make the changes that he needs to make within a year of you guys dating. The second reason to end a relationship with a widower is he doesn't want the same relationship you want. So before, as you're getting serious with someone, hopefully you know what kind of relationship you want. Do you want to get married? Are you just looking for a long-term partnership? Do you want a casual relationship? Everybody's a little bit different in what it is that they're looking for, but if you're out there dating, whether you're a widower or something else, you should have a pretty good idea what it is that you're looking for. Now, I know that I was a little confused when I started dating again, but ultimately I knew that I wanted to remarry and have a family and do things like that. So it was important to me to actually date people who had those same end goals, who wanted to get married and wanted to have a family. Who wanted the same kind of relationship that I wanted. So, for example, if you want to get married, but the widower doesn't want to get married, odds are he's not going to change his mind. So, you need to step back and ask yourself is why are you spending time and energy and effort with someone who won't give you what it is that you want or what it is that you need in a relationship? And I guess maybe decide, how important is marriage to you or whatever it is that you're looking for in a long, whatever your relationship goals were or are. If you're dating a widower who doesn't want those same goals, maybe it's time to ask yourself, should you really be in this relationship? Because honestly, you should be in a relationship with someone who has the same end goals. Because if you're moving towards marriage and the widower just says, hey, I'm fine with the way things are, you need to kind of sit there and decide if this is something that's, how important is this to you? And if it is important, you've got permission here to go ahead and break up with it. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with someone who doesn't have the same end goals. Again, countless coaching sessions, emails, posts on the Dating a Widower Facebook group from people who are just in agony because they want to have the same, they want to get married, for example, and the widower doesn't want to get married. Well, I know I'm sure he's a great guy in lots of ways, but if marriage is the end game for you and that's what you're, that's why you're dating, why you're with someone that doesn't have those same goals. So again, he doesn't. Again, I'm not saying this. Again, you're on the first date and you want to get married. Your long-term goals are married, and the widower isn't sure what he wants. I'm not saying you can't give him some time to figure it out. But the truth is most men will know what they want fairly quickly. Maybe not on a first date, but you give a man 2 or 3 months of steady dating, he will know whether or not he wants what he wants from the relationship, whether it's marriage or something else. And if it's not the same thing you want, got to do some thinking there and decide if you really want to be with someone who can't give you the relationship that you ultimately want. Third reason to break up with a widower for widower-related reasons is for whatever reason he keeps wanting a break in the relationship, or he says he doesn't know what he wants in the relationship, or feels confused. Now, one thing I always tell women dating widowers is you need to believe a widower. If he says he doesn't know what he wants or he feels confused, he's being very honest with you. It's very common for widowers, especially recent widowers, when they're dating again or get in their first serious relationship, to feel confused and not know what they want. Now, that doesn't mean that things can't clear up at some point. But if he's constantly telling you that he doesn't know what he wants in the relationship, or he feels confused about it, or he keeps taking breaks, like, hey, we need to take a break for a little bit, I need some time off. Those are all red flags that the relationship's not going anywhere, because inside what's happening is the widower is confused. He really is confused about what he wants. He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know how to express himself. He has all these, it could be guilt, it could be grief, it could be a mix of everything. It could be that deep down he knows the relationship isn't right for him. But if he keeps saying like he doesn't know what he wants, or he feels confused, or he keeps asking for breaks in the relationship, dude, the relationship's not going anywhere. Break it up, end it. This is a good reason to end the relationship. And as simple as saying, you know what? When you figure out what you want, maybe we can get back together. And I'll discuss this more in the second video, but it doesn't have to be long and complicated. If he doesn't know what he wants, why are you with somebody that doesn't maybe know what they want? Again, you can give him, there's a little bit of patience in here, but don't spend months and months and years waiting for him to figure out what he wants. He will know fairly quickly what he wants. Also, don't be afraid to take this step. I can't tell you how many times, for reasons to break up with a widower, even if the reasons are right there, I see too often there's lots of hesitation and thinking that, that more time or more patience or more sacrifice on your part will somehow make things better with the widower. And the truth is it won't. Sometimes the widower needs a kick in the butt to feel like they'll lose you in order to clean up their act. So don't second guess yourself. If your gut, and honestly, and that's the fourth reason right there, is that if your gut tells you something's wrong with the relationship, listen to your gut. There could be, again, you're in the relationship, you know it better than anybody. And even if you can't put it to words, if your gut's telling you something's wrong with the relationship or something's wrong with the widower, that he's not ready, your gut's right. And it's probably right about 99.9% of the time. Heck, it's probably right 100% of the time. Let's just be honest here. So even if you can't place an exact reason on why the widower or why the relationship feels wrong, it's okay to end the relationship just because you don't feel it's right. The worst thing you can do is put your life on hold simply because he's putting his life on hold. Never settle for this. All these widower reasons that we think we need to be patient, and and there's grief issues, and if we just wait around, that things will get better. And really, the truth is that sometimes they get better, but most of the times that they don't. Widowers can't have serious relationships until they're working on healing themselves or found a way to heal themselves. And too often we think that if we're just around there and we're hanging around them and we're having a good time with them, that'll somehow that'll heal them. And the truth is, it doesn't heal them. It doesn't work that way. You can be the reason that they're healing. You can be a reason for them to heal, but healing and grief is an individual a journey. Anyway, those are widower-related reasons to break up with a widower. Again, if there's abuse, addiction, or adultery, those aren't usually widower-related, and you should be out of those relationships anyway. But again, a summary: if the widower can't make you number one within a year, or make you feel like number one within a year, break off the relationship. If he doesn't want the same kind of relationship you want, break it off. If he keeps wanting a break or says he's confused or doesn't want nobody wants in the relationship, break it off. And honestly, if your gut is just telling you that something's wrong with the relationship and it keeps pestering like that, break it off. I'll talk about this more in the next video, but you don't always have to give him a concrete reason why you're ending things. We'll talk about that more. But anyway, those are the general reasons to break up with a widower. If you have more questions on reasons or why you should break up with a widower, go ahead and leave a comment below. Feel free to subscribe. You guys know the routine. On the next video, we will discuss how to break up with a widower, what you need to do to actually get the point across that things are ending, and how the widowers might react to that. Until then, I'll see you next Wednesday, and have a good day.